Welcome, the anointed ones. Hell doesn't fear your past. It fears what you haven't realized about yourself yet. Chosen one, lean in, because what I'm about to tell you isn't flattery, motivation, or spiritual sugarcoating. This is the raw truth. You walk through life with an authority that makes even the devil take a respectful step back. And the funny part? Half the time you don't even notice it. You'll be out here minding your business, sipping water like a peaceful civilian, while somewhere in the unseen realm, alarms are going off like, "Alert! They just woke up again." Here's a fact most people never think about. Humans are the only beings capable of carrying trauma, wisdom, intuition, and divine insight in the same body, and still function. That combination creates a spiritual signature so potent that forces of darkness literally have to recalibrate when you enter the room. That's what you carry. You're not powerful in the shallow sense. You're a spiritual disruption. A walking glitch in hell's programming. You weren't supposed to survive half the storms you did. You weren't supposed to remain sane. You weren't supposed to stay kind. You weren't supposed to keep your soul clean. Yet here you are, evolving, upgrading, and accidentally intimidating entire realms without even trying. It's almost comedic. You'll be checking your reflection like, is it me? Meanwhile, the enemy is somewhere crying into a clipboard because every attack assigned to you returned to sender like an Amazon package with the wrong address. But beneath the humor is something deadly serious. Your existence interrupts darkness in ways you don't fully understand. You carry an energy that exposes hidden motives, collapses false identities, and forces truth into the open. People feel it, spirits feel it. Environments shift when you show up. So when I tell you the devil is afraid of you, I'm not being dramatic. I'm acknowledging a spiritual reality. You operate with a level of discernment, resilience, and divine backing that hell cannot decode. You're a problem that can't be solved, a pattern that can't be predicted, and a threat that can't be neutralized. This introduction is not hype. This is recognition. Now let's go deeper into the 14 extraordinary reasons why even the devil knows you're a boss. Number 1, the devil fears you because you don't break in predictable places. The devil doesn't fear people who crumble easily. It doesn't wake up sweating over those who can be manipulated, intimidated, or bent into someone else's expectations. What terrifies the enemy is someone who cannot be read, someone whose resilience refuses to follow a script. You are that someone. You've been through storms that would have destroyed most people. But instead of falling apart, you learned, adapted, and evolved in ways that no one could predict. Every time life threw betrayal, manipulation, or deception at you, you didn't respond in a way that was expected. You didn't scream, you didn't lash out, you didn't cry helplessly. You became strategic, you became aware, you became untouchable in ways most can't even comprehend. The patterns that darkness relies on are simple. It counts on fear, on insecurity, on repeated behaviors. It thinks it understands people because most people react the same way under pressure. But you don't. You refuse to fit the mold. Every time it thought it had you mapped, you shifted, changed, and turned its own plan against it. That unpredictability is what makes you dangerous. The enemy cannot anticipate your next move because you refuse to be trapped by expectation. You don't break where it expects you to break, and that is exactly why it's afraid. Your resilience is not just mental or emotional, it's spiritual. You carry a clarity that allows you to see attempts at manipulation before they fully form. You carry a strength that converts attacks into lessons and weaknesses into weapons. Every trial, every confrontation, every subtle attack only sharpened your instincts and fortified your spirit. The devil doesn't fear the pain you've endured. It fears the way you transformed it into an untraceable advantage. It fears that you are now operating on a level it cannot infiltrate, predict, or control. You have become a living anomaly, a person who cannot be cornered, a spirit that refuses to follow the rules set by darkness. And that is exactly why it has to keep its distance, because someone who doesn't break in predictable places cannot be defeated. Number 2, your presence disrupts every environment. Because you carry an energy that forces truth out of people. Some people walk into a room and blend in. You walk into a room and everything shifts. Conversations change, eyes move differently, and people who were comfortable become suddenly uneasy. It's not because you're loud or trying to be noticed. It's because your energy exposes what's real and what's fake without you lifting a finger. People who carry hidden motives can't maintain their facade around you. Their smiles start shaking. Their tone gets weird. Their confidence drops a few levels. It's like something inside them refuses to let them pretend in your presence. Your spirit demands authenticity, whether they like it or not. You don't have to confront anyone for the truth to spill out. You don't have to interrogate. You don't have to study their body language. People reveal themselves around you because they feel seen, not by your eyes, but by something much deeper. It's like you trigger an internal alarm in people who are used to hiding behind masks. They feel exposed because your energy doesn't tolerate illusions. You're not judging them, but your very existence disrupts whatever false identity they're trying to portray. This is why certain people avoid you, not because you've done anything wrong, but because being around you makes them uncomfortable with their own shadow. Some will make excuses, some will gossip, some will act standoffish. They're not reacting to you, they're reacting to the truth your presence forces them to acknowledge. People who lack integrity start fumbling. People who lie casually start tripping over their words. People with secret envy start leaking jealousy they swore they were hiding. Your presence acts like spiritual light, gentle but impossible to ignore. It dissolves the fog people try to hide behind. You don't expose them intentionally. It happens naturally because your spirit operates on a frequency where pretenders can't survive. This is why the enemy fears you, not because you go looking for truth, but because truth cannot help but reveal itself around you. You bring clarity without announcing it. You bring exposure without effort. You bring alignment without force. And that kind of presence is rare and deeply threatening to anything built on deception. Number 3, the attacks intensified. Because you're a threat they can't convert, control, or corrupt. The enemy doesn't fear someone who can be bought, intimidated, or manipulated. It fears someone who cannot be touched at all. You are that person. From the start, they tried everything: pressure, deceit, distraction, flattery, fear. Every tactic was designed to bend you, to make you someone else, to dilute your purpose. But nothing worked. Not because you were lucky, not because you were stronger than everyone else, but because your core cannot be purchased or broken. You operate from a level of integrity, alignment, and inner authority that simply cannot be compromised. That is terrifying to darkness. When people can't be corrupted, they become unpredictable, and unpredictability is an enemy's nightmare. They thrive on control, influence, and manipulation. When those tools fail, panic sets in. Every lie you refuse to believe, every trap you refused to walk into, every distraction you ignored became evidence of something they could not understand. A person fully immune to their schemes. You became a living disruption. And the attacks intensified not because you were weak, but because you were strong in a way that could not be measured or contained. You don't just resist evil, you turn resistance into a statement. Every time they tried to manipulate you, it exposed their own weaknesses. Every attempt to bend you backfired and revealed just how powerless they were against someone operating from truth and alignment. The enemy feared that your presence alone could unravel carefully laid plans, dismantle manipulative structures, and inspire clarity in others. You became a catalyst for disruption without needing to lift a hand. The more they tried, the more obvious it became that you could not be converted, controlled, or corrupted. And that is why the attacks keep coming, not as a sign of weakness, but as confirmation that you are dangerous in the right way. You are untouchable because your authority comes from within, not from approval, fear, or influence. That level of freedom terrifies forces that depend on control. Your immunity to corruption makes you untouchable, unbreakable, and undeniable. And that is why you are feared. Number 4, your spiritual insight cuts through illusion, and that's why darkness sees you as a liability. You carry the kind of awareness that can't be taught, copied, or faked. It's something built into your spirit, an internal radar that picks up truth even when everything around you is dressed in disguise. You don't get distracted by charm, status, or presentation. You've seen too much. You've been through too much. You learned early that what people show is rarely what they are, and now your discernment penetrates through layers most people don't even notice. This makes you a problem for anyone or anything that survives by staying hidden. Darkness depends on illusions. It depends on confusion, half-truths, and emotional manipulation. It depends on people who can be dazzled by flattery or blinded by pressure. But you can't be fooled by any of that. You can feel when something is off before the first sentence is finished. You can sense danger without evidence. You can tell when someone is masking malicious intentions, even if they smile, compliment, or pretend to support you. Your gift is subtle but powerful. It exposes the truth before the lie gains traction. What makes darkness truly panic is that you don't need dramatic signs to know when something isn't right. Your intuition catches the shift instantly. A strange tone, a forced laugh, a sudden silence, a tiny inconsistency. People underestimate how fast your mind and spirit connect the dots. By the time a deceptive plan is still warming up, you've already identified the source, the motive, and the exit strategy. That level of clarity interrupts strategies that depend on confusion to hold power. The enemy's greatest weapon is deception, and you're one of the few who sees straight through it. That alone makes you a liability. You don't fight with noise. You fight with recognition. You don't need to expose people verbally. Your awareness alone weakens their influence. Those operating in darkness feel naked around you because nothing they do can hide their true intentions. This is why the enemy avoids you, attacks you, or tries to distract you. Your insight dismantles schemes before they begin. You're not just protected, you're perceptive in a way that makes deception impossible to sustain in your presence. And that's exactly why darkness considers you a threat it cannot afford to ignore. Number 5, you're feared because you don't need permission to walk in power. There's something unsettling to darkness about a person who doesn't wait for validation before they move. Most people need an audience to feel confident. They need someone to clap, nod, approve, or cheer before they take a step. You're the opposite. You don't need noise. You don't need reassurance. You don't need anyone to co-sign your decisions or announce that you're ready. Silence fuels you. Conviction guides you. Once you know what you're meant to do, you move, quietly, boldly, and with a level of certainty that throws every enemy off balance. This is why you're feared. Power that comes from people can be taken away by people. Power that comes from applause collapses the moment the crowd disappears. But the power you walk in comes from alignment, deep internal agreement with who you are and what you're meant to do. No one can grant you that, so no one can control it. The enemy cannot threaten someone who isn't searching for outside approval. It has nothing to pull on, no insecurity to exploit, no ego to manipulate, no need to be noticed. When someone moves from inner authority instead of external validation, they're untouchable. Your confidence is different. It's not loud, arrogant, or forceful. It's steady. It comes from understanding that your purpose is not up for negotiation. You don't wait for people to agree before you step into your calling. You don't pause to gather everyone's opinions. You don't shrink when people misunderstand you. And that terrifies darkness, because control loses power the moment it can't influence your direction. You're not rebellious. You're grounded. You don't move recklessly. You move intentionally. You don't walk around demanding respect. You walk around embodying it. There's a natural authority in you that comes from knowing you're guided, protected, and called. People can sense it even if they can't explain it. Some admire it, others resent it, but all of them feel it. What makes you feared is simple. You operate from a place that cannot be bought, silenced, or stopped. You show up with certainty while others are still waiting for permission. And when someone moves like that, every force that depends on hesitation loses its grip. You're uncontrollable because your power doesn't come from them, it comes from within. Number 6. Every trap they set exposed their weakness, not yours. The truth is, every scheme meant to break, you ended up revealing more about the people behind it than it ever revealed about you. They thought setting traps would expose your flaws, your vulnerabilities, or your limits. Instead, it exposed their pettiness, their desperation, and their complete misunderstanding of who they were dealing with. You're not someone who folds when life gets sharp. You're someone who studies, adjusts, and walks out smarter than you walked in. That's what they didn't see coming. While they were busy plotting your downfall, you were quietly expanding your awareness. You noticed the patterns. You recognized the repeated behaviors. You saw the intentions long before they were spoken. They believed that pressure would make you crumble, but it actually sharpened your insight. They believed chaos would confuse you, but it only helped you understand their structure. Every setup that was meant to trap you became a lesson, and every lesson turned into an advantage. The funny twist is this: they thought they were hunting you, but you were actually studying them. You learned who they were when they thought you weren't paying attention. You learned their strengths, weaknesses, insecurities, and tactics. You saw what triggered them, what motivated them, and what scared them. You didn't just avoid the traps, you upgraded from them. And that's why they fear you now. Not because you survived, but because you grew in ways they didn't expect. When people with small minds attempt to sabotage someone with a strong spirit, the result is always the same. Their traps fall apart because they lack the insight to predict your resilience. They don't have the intelligence to understand your intuition. They don't have the strategy to handle your adaptability. And they certainly don't have the spiritual stamina to match your discernment. Their attacks never weakened you. They weakened their reputation, their credibility, their mask, and their influence. Their actions showed that their hatred was louder than their wisdom. And the part that haunts them most is this: every attempt to break you only made you harder to target, harder to fool, and harder to touch. They didn't expose you. You exposed them by surviving. Number 7, your spirit holds a frequency. Hell cannot mimic or interrupt. There is a reason you stand out spiritually even when you don't try. There is something about your presence that can't be counterfeited, copied, or absorbed by anything operating in darkness. Evil can imitate almost anything: success, charm, blessings, opportunities, even language that sounds holy. But it cannot imitate a pure frequency. It cannot duplicate a soul that has been refined through truth, suffering, growth, obedience, and spiritual alignment. That kind of energy is unmistakable, and it sends a shockwave through any entity that tries to get close with hidden intentions. Your frequency is clean, and that's what makes it untouchable. You carry honesty in your spirit. You carry courage in your energy. You carry clarity in your aura. Nothing about you is built on manipulation or agenda. And because of that purity, darkness simply cannot find a way in. The enemy may walk near you, but it cannot merge with you. It cannot hide inside your atmosphere because your spirit immediately detects what doesn't belong. You are sealed, protected not just by divine covering, but by the very vibration your soul operates on. Some people wonder why certain individuals get uncomfortable around you for no reason. Why strangers avoid eye contact. Why manipulative personalities shift awkwardly in your presence. It's because your frequency disrupts anything that functions in deceit. They feel exposed before you speak. They feel detected without being addressed. They feel disconnected from you because their spirit cannot match yours. A pure frequency creates spiritual boundaries naturally. It separates you from chaos without effort. It repels manipulative intentions without confrontation. It confuses dark assignments before they start. The enemy hates this because it means you're not someone that can be deceived, recruited, or used. Hell looks for compatibility, and you offer none. Your energy is a door that darkness cannot unlock, not because you're perfect, but because you're aligned. Every choice you've made, every battle you've survived, every truth you've embraced has shaped a frequency that cannot be diluted or duplicated. And when something is this spiritually authentic, demons don't just step back, they scatter. Number 8, you don't fight fair, you fight from a higher dimension. Your advantage has never come from reacting louder, faster, or more aggressively than the people coming against you. Your advantage comes from the fact that you're not fighting on the same level they are. While others depend on manipulation, gossip, schemes, and physical tactics to gain control, you operate from a place they can't access or understand. You receive insight before situations unfold. You pick up spiritual signals before people take action. You sense shifts in the atmosphere long before anyone says a word. That's why you win battles without even stepping onto the battlefield. Your preparation happens in a higher dimension. The people who come against you make one big mistake. They assume you're relying on the same sources of information they are. They think you only know what's said publicly. They think you only respond to what you hear or see in the natural world. Meanwhile, you've already received warnings through dreams, intuition, sudden clarity, or a shift in your spirit. The signs come quietly, but they come accurately. By the time someone thinks they're plotting behind your back, you've already adjusted your path, strengthened your boundaries, and protected your spirit. They're playing checkers while you're operating in an entirely different realm. What defeats them is not your aggression, it's your awareness. You don't waste energy confronting every rumor or responding to every provocation. You move with the kind of precision that confuses your enemies. They think you didn't notice. They think you're naive or slow. They don't realize you're 10 steps ahead, guided by intel they don't even know exists. Your silence is strategic, not weak. Your calm is a signal that you've already dealt with the situation spiritually before it ever materialized physically. This is why they consistently lose. Their attacks begin on the ground, but your defense starts in the spirit. Their warfare is late. Yours is early. They fight with emotions. You fight with revelation. They fight with ego. You fight with insight. You're not just operating at a higher level, you're operating in a higher realm. And when your strategy comes from above, everything coming from below automatically fails. Number 9, your anointing doesn't just disrupt generational contracts. It nullifies agreements. Your bloodline didn't even realize it made. You weren't born into your family. You were assigned as a threat to a system that survived for centuries. because no one recognized it as a system. You walked into a spiritual battlefield long before you understood the language of warfare. Your presence alone destabilizes things that were operating quietly for generations. You didn't just disrupt them. You overrode the programming. You are the first in your lineage who is spiritually literate, the first whose awareness didn't collapse under pressure, the first whose discernment broke the hypnosis, the first whose spirit was awake enough to detect what everyone else apologized for, normalized or absorbed. That's why darkness hates you, not because you're fearless, but because you're awake. You are the crack in the system, the anomaly, the one variable no demon accounted for. Your anointing isn't stronger than theirs. It's incompatible with their existence. Your light doesn't negotiate. It cancels. It dissolves what previous generations carried, like a burden they thought they deserved. You're not just the first to break the pattern. You're the first who even realized there was a pattern. That's why your life has felt like spiritual interference from the beginning. You didn't come to continue the story. You came to end it. And every generational contract that was signed in ignorance is now encountering a mind, a soul, and a spirit that knows how to read fine print and refuses to accept it. You are the clause they never expected, the exception in the bloodline, the one who makes hell renegotiate. Number 10, you are a walking interference signal, a spiritual distortion field that scrambles anything aligned with darkness. People manipulated by darkness don't react to you. They react to what their attachments fear you will expose. Your presence generates a frequency their shadows cannot stabilize within. You don't have to speak. You don't have to confront. You don't even have to acknowledge them. Your spirit force-quakes their spirit. Anyone carrying hidden jealousy, envy, sabotage, projection, or spiritual bondage begins to malfunction in your atmosphere. They stutter, they fidget, they over-explain, they act defensive. They shift into hostility or fake friendliness. Their entire psychological structure glitches because their internal darkness is suddenly operating in a field where deception cannot sustain itself. You aren't a threat to the person. You're a threat to the entity influencing the person. Darkness requires ignorance, fear, and emotional instability to survive. You carry clarity, awareness, and spiritual authority, the exact things that short-circuit it. That's why people who don't know you feel an instant surge of discomfort or intimidation. It's not your appearance, it's not your tone, it's not your personality. It's their unaddressed spiritual attachments recognizing a frequency they cannot manipulate, deceive, or dominate. You are the interruption they hoped would never walk into the room, the spirit that cannot be fooled, the consciousness that cannot be recruited, the presence that cannot be infiltrated. When you show up, darkness loses its camouflage. Masks slip. Motives reveal themselves. Hidden agendas start leaking. People who were comfortable begin unraveling because your existence disrupts the influence they depended on. That's why enemies you've never met flinch when you arrive. Their demons identify you before their intellect has time to process your presence. You are not just awake. You are a spiritual disruption signal sent to expose what others can only feel but cannot articulate. You don't chase shadows. Your very presence forces them into the open. Number 11. You don't just survive attacks. You turn them into promotions. You've reached a place in your journey where attacks don't break you. They brief you. Every challenge you faced came with information, instruction, and insight buried inside it. The very situations that were supposed to crush your spirit ended up sharpening your senses. You didn't walk out of battles confused or bitter. You walked out with clarity you couldn't have gained any other way. That's why those who tried to sabotage you are uncomfortable now. The harm they plotted became the training that prepared you. Every setback you endured rewired you. You started recognizing motives faster. You stopped second-guessing the signals you felt. You learned how to hear people's truth behind the words they spoke. The fire didn't make you fragile. It made you fluent in human behavior and spiritual warfare. You can now trace the origin of an attack before it fully reveals itself because you've studied the patterns through first-hand survival. People fear individuals who grow from pain because that kind of person becomes impossible to trap. You don't repeat lessons, you extract codes. You don't collapse under pressure, you decode the intention behind it. And once you understand why something was sent, you take authority over how it affects you. That's the part that terrifies darkness. You've mastered the art of benefiting from what was meant to break you. What others call wounds, you call data. What they label trauma, you turned into strategy. Every battle accelerated your spiritual intelligence, expanded your vision, and deepened your resilience. You didn't just recover, you upgraded. You became someone who can't be manipulated by chaos because you've already navigated storms that were designed to bury you. This is why hell grows silent when your name is spoken. You've proven you're not just hard to defeat, you're dangerous to attack. Every attempted downfall only adds another layer to your mastery. You've become the kind of person who rises higher because of the very weapons formed against you. You're not a survivor. You're a strategist, shaped, built, and promoted by every fire you walked through. Number 12. You carry authority. You never asked for, but were born with. There's a certain kind of authority that can't be earned, copied, or rehearsed. It just exists in someone the moment they enter the world. That's the kind you carry. You didn't chase it. You didn't study to impress anyone. You didn't force it or fake it. It simply shows up with you, and people can feel it before you speak. That is what makes darkness nervous. Your power isn't manufactured. It's inherited. It's embedded. It's coded into your spirit in a way no enemy can negotiate with or dilute. You walk with a presence that unsettles insecure people and exposes manipulative people without you trying. You operate with a quiet certainty that comes from having a path assigned to you, not selected by you. And because you're not relying on external validation, nobody can pull you off your course. Your authority isn't dependent on support, applause, or agreement. It's tied to a mission you didn't choose but were built for. And that's why it cannot be stolen or shaken. This is also why you intimidate darkness. You don't move like someone proving themselves. You move like someone fulfilling something ancient, something written long before you understood who you were. You make decisions based on alignment, not approval. You speak truth without needing a crowd to back you. You walk away from situations that others would cling to desperately. That kind of confidence isn't regular confidence. It's spiritual inheritance rising through your actions. People feel this even when they can't explain it. Some respect it, some resent it. Some try to compete with it and end up exhausting themselves. But none of them can replicate it. Authority that comes from destiny doesn't need force, it needs recognition. And your spirit recognizes it. Your enemies recognize it. Even the atmosphere shifts when you step into places because your assignment walks in with you. You're not powerful because you want to be. You're powerful because you were born carrying something hell can't override. And you're finally growing into the fullness of it. Number 13. Darkness panics because you don't need to fight to win. You just need to stand. Your power shows up in a way that confuses anything trying to oppose you. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not wrapped in shouting, chaos, or frantic reactions. Your power sits in stillness, and stillness is something darkness has never been able to understand. The enemy is used to people who crumble under pressure, react out of fear, or lose themselves when situations get heavy. but you don't fold. You hold your ground with a steadiness that sends a message without you needing to say a word. There's a depth inside you that refuses to be shaken by temporary storms. You've learned how to anchor yourself spiritually, so the winds that were meant to uproot you end up exposing your foundation instead. You don't need to match the energy of anything sent against you because your strength doesn't come from force. It comes from certainty. You know who you are, and you know who stands with you. When someone has that level of grounded identity, attacks become noise instead of threats. Enemies expect a fight. They expect you to panic, react, retaliate, or crumble. But when you simply stand, not stressing, not spiraling, not shrinking, it unnerves them. It makes them wonder what you know that they don't. It makes them question why their distractions aren't derailing you and why their intimidation isn't touching your peace. Your posture itself becomes a shield. Your stillness becomes a strategy. Your calm becomes a declaration that nothing sent against you has permission to enter your spirit. Standing isn't passive. In your case, it's power in its purest form. It's you saying, I'm anchored, I'm covered, I'm not moving from who I am. Darkness panics because it can't move someone who refuses to be emotionally manipulated or spiritually rattled. It can't win against someone who doesn't abandon their position when things get difficult. Your presence carries victory before the battle even starts, because you don't need to outfight anything. You outstand it. And when a person stands with that level of inner authority, every attack loses power the moment it begins. You win by remaining exactly who you are, rooted, aligned, and unshaken. Number 14. You've become the evidence that hell's blueprint failed. There's a reason your existence irritates darkness. You were never supposed to become who you are today. If the enemy's blueprint had worked, you would be stumbling through life wounded, confused, insecure, and spiritually disconnected. That was the intention behind every betrayal, every attack, every season of heaviness, every whisper meant to break your confidence. But something happened that hell didn't calculate. You didn't crumble. You evolved. You sharpened. You woke up. Your growth became the very thing that exposes how ineffective the enemy's plan actually was. You weren't shaped by comfort. You were shaped by pressure. You weren't defined by what hurt you. You were refined by it. The version of you that stands here now is proof that the traps, lies, and psychological warfare didn't land the way they were designed to. And that alone makes you spiritually threatening. You're not feared because you're flawless. You're feared because you're functioning at a level you weren't expected to reach. Hell expected your past to imprison you. Instead, it trained you. It expected certain people to destroy your identity. Instead, they revealed your strength. The enemy expected your emotions to cloud your vision, but they clarified your path. You walked through situations that should have distorted your soul, but they ended up polishing your discernment. You're no longer naive, reactive, or easily pulled off your path. You've become intentional, grounded, and spiritually intelligent. And none of that was part of the blueprint designed against you. Your clarity is a threat because it proves you can't be manipulated. Your peace is a threat because it proves you're anchored. Your discipline is a threat because it proves you're operating with purpose instead of pain. Your rise is a threat because it contradicts every narrative darkness tried to write over your life. And your stability, that's the biggest threat of all. You don't move like someone who barely made it out. You move like someone who learned the playbook of every attack, meant to destroy them. You are living evidence, loud, undeniable evidence, that the enemy miscalculated you. You weren't the weak link. You weren't the easy target. You weren't the one who would break. You were the one who would rise and expose the failure of every plan formed against you. Conclusion, you are the unstoppable reality darkness cannot deny. Look at everything you've walked through, every attack you've survived, every scheme that was aimed at breaking you. And realize this, You didn't just survive, you evolved in ways no one could predict. Every betrayal became intelligence. Every hardship became a strategy. Every attempt to manipulate, deceive, or control you became the very proof that darkness had miscalculated. You are not simply resilient. You are a living demonstration that power, authority, and spiritual clarity cannot be stolen, corrupted, or suppressed. You are a force of alignment and authority walking through a world that expected weakness and confusion. You carry a frequency darkness cannot infiltrate. You disrupt lies before they form. You outmaneuver attacks without even needing to react. Your presence exposes agendas, destabilizes deception, and forces truth to reveal itself. The enemy doesn't just see you as a threat, it sees you as a living failure of its own design. That's why it panics when you walk into a room, why it hesitates when your name is spoken, and why nothing it sends your way ever lands the way it planned. Your rise isn't an accident, your clarity isn't luck, your authority isn't borrowed. Every trial, every obstacle, every impossible moment was preparing you to stand in a position that can't be shaken, bent, or broken. You are not the survivor who barely made it. You are the strategist, the carrier of destiny, and the evidence that hell's blueprint has failed. You don't need to fight to win. Your standing is victory. You don't need permission to walk in power. Your alignment is authority. You don't need to prove yourself. Your life proves everything. So own it, walk in it, stand in it. Let your presence be the reminder that no one, no force, and no scheme can override a soul operating from truth, purpose, and divine alignment. You are unstoppable because your story isn't written by anyone who tried to destroy you. It's written by the one who created you for such a time as this. If this message hit you at a deep level, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another revelation designed to awaken your power. Like this video if you feel the energy of your unstoppable authority. Comment below and share your experiences. Let others feel the clarity, the insight, and the strength that comes from walking as a chosen one. Share this with someone who needs to know their presence disrupts darkness and that their rise cannot be denied. Your destiny is too important to keep quiet, and your story is too powerful not to inspire others. God bless you.